Welcome to 1189, an online Bible commentary. My name is Tyler Marston, and today we're taking a look at Numbers chapter 31. After all this time, the moment has come where the Israelites can take the promised land. And they're going to be empowered by God here to take their first offensive maneuver in their upcoming various battles against the pagan nations. And here God is using the Israelite army in a righteous way. He's using them to bring judgment on a group of corrupt Midianites who have caused trouble in the past. But after the battle is when things really get interesting. The way the Israelites go about dividing the spoils of war is completely countercultural to the assumed practices of these ancient times. For better or worse, we have to reckon with the biblical idea that God is using these armies to bring about his own judgment and justice. But we also need to realize that the God we serve is not one who celebrates death and destruction and power. He allows for wars and battles to happen as long as the people are doing it his way, a way that limits people from killing in order to seek their own glory. And it establishes a mindset that war is an unfortunate concession used to bring about justice in a corrupt world. And I'm convinced that this should be our mindset of war too, physical wars and spiritual wars. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Take full vengeance for the sons of Israel on the Midianites. Afterward you will be gathered to your people." Moses spoke to the people, saying, "Arm men from among you for the war, that they may go against Midian to execute the Lord's vengeance on Midian. 1,000 from each tribe of all the tribes of Israel you shall send to the war." God is commanding the Israelites to go to war against the Midianites. And this will be Moses' final challenge before he passes away in the wilderness. But the Israelite army is not acting in their own interest. They're being used as an instrument of God's vengeance. God uses his people to accomplish his purposes. And that's as true in God's justice and judgment as anywhere else. And always keep in mind, too, that God's judgment is an expression of his justice. He's never going to let those who are guilty get away with it. What have the Midianites done? Well, remember Numbers 22 through 25. They allied themselves with Moab in order to try and destroy Israel because they were afraid of them. They tried to curse Israel through Balaam, even though God wouldn't let that work. And then they systematically seduced Israelite leaders in order to build sympathy for their own false gods and get the Almighty Yahweh God to abandon his covenant with Israel. And so for all of these reasons, God is using the armies of Israel to bring about justice. So there were furnished from the thousands of Israel 1,000 from each tribe, 12,000 armed for war. Moses sent them 1,000 from each tribe to the war, and Phinehas the son of Eleazar the priest to the war with them, and the holy vessels and the trumpets for the alarm in his hand. Moses appoints 1,000 people from each tribe to go to battle, and they're led by Phinehas, the son of Eleazar the high priest. Remember, it was Phinehas back in Numbers 25 who put an end to this cult sexual behavior by any means necessary. So they made war against Midian, just as the Lord had commanded Moses, and they killed every male. They killed the kings of Midian, along with the rest of their slain, Evi and Rechem and Zur and Hor and Rebah, the 5 kings of Midian. They also killed Balaam the son of Beor with the sword. The sons of Israel captured the women of Midian and their little ones, and all their cattle and all their flocks and all their goods they plundered. Then they burned all their cities where they lived, and all their camps with fire. They took all the spoil and all the prey, both of man and of beast. They brought the captives and the prey and the spoil to Moses and to Eleazar the priest, and to the congregation of the sons of Israel, to the camp at the plains of Moab, which are by the Jordan, opposite Jericho. So empowered by the Lord, the Israelites are given victory in this battle. They're able to take down all the cities and all the fortifications of the Midianites, and they kill all their leaders and kings. Included in that list is Balaam, the pagan sorcerer for hire, who attempted unsuccessfully to curse the Israelites earlier in Numbers. As was the norm for ancient wars, the people kill the men, burn the cities, and take spoil made up of gold, livestock, women, and children. But as we'll see, even though God is asking the people to go to war, it won't look like that ancient standard of war made simply for riches and power and glory. Moses and Eleazar the priest and all the leaders of the congregation went out to meet them outside the camp. Moses was angry with the officers of the army, the captains of thousands and the captains of hundreds, who had come from service in the war. And Moses said to them, "Have you spared all the women? Behold, these caused the sons of Israel, through the counsel of Balaam, to trespass against the Lord in the matter of Peor. So the plague was among the congregation of the Lord. Now therefore, kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman who has known man intimately. But all the girls who have not known man intimately, spare for yourselves." Moses and Eleazar are not pleased with the Midianite women being spared. After all, it was these same Midianite and Moabite women that seduced the sons of Israel and brought a plague that started all of this. Taking the women captive as slaves, property, spoils of war, that was the ancient norm. But Moses commands that these women be executed for their role in their community's sin of the past, and so that they don't have the opportunity to seduce Israel and make them continue to worship their false gods. It really is a fierce passage, and honestly, I can't say that I have it all figured out. This makes complete sense to me. But as God said in Numbers 25, He is a jealous God, and He doesn't want the people cheating on Him with the lesser deities of the pagans. And you, camp outside the camp 7 days, whoever has killed any person, and whoever has touched any slain. Purify yourselves, you and your captives, on the 3rd day and on the 7th day. You shall purify yourselves, every garment and every article of leather, and all the work of goat's hair, and all the articles of wood. Then Eleazar the priest said to the men of war who had gone to battle, "This is the statute of the law which the Lord had commanded Moses. Only the gold and the silver, the bronze and the iron, the tin and the lead, everything that can stand the fire, ye shall pass through the fire, and it shall be clean. But it shall be purified with water for impurity. But whatever cannot stand the fire, you shall pass through the water, and you shall wash your clothes on the 7th day and be clean. And afterward you may enter the camp." Further, we also have to realize that all of this is a concession. None of this is in God's original vision for reality. None of this is the Eden ideal. And this is evident because these warriors of Israel don't receive a hero's welcome. They don't get to parade around the city, flaunting their new possessions, inspiring awe from all the onlookers. When they return from battle, they're actually barred from entering the camp for 7 days, until they can purify themselves from the deaths they've caused. All their clothes need to be washed. Everything that's metal needs to be purified. And that's because death is unclean. Touching death is unclean. Causing death is unclean, even though it's unavoidable and sometimes necessary. But it's still a sign of the broken and corrupted nature of the good world God originally created and the one He wants to restore. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "You and Eleazar the priest and the heads of the fathers' households of the congregation take account of the booty that was captured, both of man and of animal, and divide the booty between the warriors who went out to battle and all the congregation. Levy a tax for the Lord from the men of war who went out to battle, 1 in 500 of the persons, and of the cattle, and of the donkeys, and of the sheep. Take it from their half, and give it to Eleazar the priest, as an offering to the Lord. From the sons of Israel's half, you shall take 1 drawn out of every 50 persons, of the cattle, of the donkeys, and of the sheep, from all the animals, and give them to the Levites, who keep charge of the tabernacle of the Lord. And meanwhile, the spoils of the battle, including the sheep and the donkeys and the livestock, they're not all to be added to the personal inventory of the warriors. They split the totals in half, one side going to those 12,000 fighting men, and the other 50% being split up among all of Israel. And on top of that, God gets a cut of both halves. All of that spoil is given to the priests and Levites for service in the tabernacle. And then verses 32 through 47 gives us a receipt of everything that was captured in the war. Once again, we see how this war is waged for justice, not for power or assets. Sure, the people do get some rewards for obeying God, just as we receive blessings and rewards for all the ways we obey Him. But God's gifts and rewards are not transactional. It's not this certain amount of works in, this certain amount of blessings out. Think about the parable of the day laborers. Everything He gives he gives generously. And in this story, it goes both to those who did the fighting and those who stayed behind and watched the camp. And both sides offer the best of those rewards back to God, showing that they recognize ultimately where their victory came from. Then the officers who were over the thousands of the army, the captains of thousands and the captains of hundreds, approached Moses, and they said to Moses, "Your servants have taken a census of men of war who are in our charge, and no man of us is missing. So we have brought as an offering to the Lord what each man found, articles of gold, armlets and bracelets, signet rings, earrings and necklaces, to make atonement for ourselves before the Lord." Moses and Eleazar the priest took the gold from them, all kinds of wrought articles. All the gold of the offering which they offered up to the Lord from the captains of thousands and the captains of hundreds was 16,750 shekels. The men of war had taken booty, every man for himself. So Moses and Eleazar the priest took the gold from the captains of thousands and of hundreds, and brought it to the tent of meeting as a memorial for the sons of Israel before the Lord. Meanwhile, all the gold and silver and precious metals, all the jewelry and gemstones that were also captured as spoils of war, the soldiers who took them give all of that back to God for his service. They give it as a free will offering, both to thank God for their return without any casualties, and to atone for their impurity of causing so much death. And so over 420 pounds of gold are brought into the tabernacle, and it's given to be a memorial for generations, a constant reminder of how God vindicated the Israelites and brought judgment on the Midianites. This chapter is our first real glance at biblical warfare, and it won't be our last. Sometimes passages like these can make us feel uncomfortable, myself included. While it's by no means in God's vision and desire for his creation, sometimes war and definitely death are an unavoidable part of life here outside of Eden. This is so for the Israelites here, whom God uses to bring judgment on the Midianites because of their own sin of worshiping false gods and seducing Israel to do the same. And meanwhile, the fallout after the battle is completely unexpected by ancient standards. The warriors have to purify themselves after battle. They split up the spoils of war among all the people, and they give offerings to God from it. And all of this shows the importance of keeping God's standards, even during a battle or during a war. Staying loyal to him at all times is how we tap into his power, and how we win spiritual battles that have been placed before us. Thanks for watching 1189. I hope that you have a good day, and God bless.